Hey up everyone! So continuing the Venice Film Festival coverage, today's movie I'm discussing on the channel is the big ticket item of this year's fest. It is Todd Phillips' highly anticipated sequel, Joker, Folie, Deux. The last time that Todd Phillips was here in Venice was 2019, where his film Joker ended up winning the top prize that year, the Golden Lion, and Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of Arthur Fleck / the Joker was a runaway success, winning countless accolades, including his first ever Oscar for Best Actor. And well deserved, I might add. Joker was also the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, only recently being dethroned by Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, there's been a lot of anticipation for this movie because we've got Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn. This is also Joaquin Phoenix's first time ever reprising a role that he's played before. This is his first ever sequel. So yeah, people were very excited for this film, myself included. I know the previous Joker film is a divisive film. I know there's a lot of people that can't stand that film, but personally, I love it. I gave that film a 10 out of 10 when I reviewed it here in Venice 5 years ago. Oh, look at little pre-pandemic Luke. Oh, I was cute back then, wasn't I? I was still in my twink era. But yeah, I saw Joker Folie Adieu this morning, and like its predecessor, I do expect this film to also be divisive. But once again, I fall on the side of positivity, okay, because I really enjoyed this film. I still think Joker 1 is a stronger film, but as far as sequels go, I do have to admire the change in direction that Todd Phillips and Scott Silvers took with the story for the sequel. The first Joker film was a moody character study, but Joker Folie Adieu is a mix of courtroom drama, jukebox musical, and a love story. Okay, they took some big risks in doing so. I don't think all of it pays off, but when it's good, it's really good. But it doesn't quite reach greatness like the first film did. The plot takes place not too long after the events of the first film, with Arthur now being behind bars in the Arkham Mental Asylum, where he's waiting to stand trial for the 5 people that he killed in the previous film. And the district attorney, Harvey Dent, is seeking the death penalty for his crimes. And at the asylum, Arthur meets an enchanting patient called Harley Quinzel, or Lee for short, and she's played in this film by Lady Gaga, who is both an arsonist and also something of a deranged fangirl of the Joker. She was actually rooting for Joker when he was on the Murray Franklin show and killed him live on TV, and she's also watched the TV movie that was based on Arthur's life like 20 times, okay? She's his #1 fan. She also loves to sing and bewitches, bothers, and bewilders Arthur with her beautiful siren song. They forge a romantic bond, and she stands by Joker as he faces trial. His trial is being broadcast live on TV for the whole world to see, and Arthur has become something of a pseudo-celebrity. I mean, he's not really famous, he's more infamous, but he's also a martyr and a symbol to the oppressed citizens of Gotham. Arthur's lawyer, Marion Stewart, played in this film by Kathleen Keener, believes that Arthur is mentally ill and deserves proper care in an actual hospital, not some loony bin, and that Arthur should walk free by reason of insanity, citing a split personality disorder. This is actually a major theme of this film, duality. I really do want to talk about the opening scene of this film, but it is something of a spoiler, and I don't want to ruin it for you guys, so I'll just say this, me and my shadow self, okay? It sets up the whole idea of Arthur being 2 people, essentially. There's Arthur, and then there's Joker. But yeah, the lawyer Marianne believes that Joker was always a split personality that was lying dormant within Arthur, but after a severely abusive childhood and an adulthood that was riddled with degradation and oppression, Arthur snapped and the Joker came out, okay? He was always broken. Perhaps he wanted to be a clown or a comedian because he thought he could heal himself with the power of laughter. But you know what else is great for healing? Music. The Arkham choir instructor even says we use music to make us whole, to balance out the fractures in ourselves. It's why so many of us choose to watch musicals when we're sick or sad, because they make us feel good. They provide an escape, a fantasy. And in Joker Folie Adieu, Arthur envisions his life, his romance with Harley, and his trial as a musical, sort of as a coping device. Because it's easier for him to live in a fantasy than it is to face the grim reality. As for my thoughts on the musical numbers, I think some of them worked better than others. The problem that I had with the musical numbers is that they don't all play by the same set of rules. Like, some of them are clearly fantasy, and sometimes they're singing and dancing in real life. So there's no real consistency between all the musical moments. And I think the songs did work best when we're indulging in Arthur's fantasies. Like the courtroom number where he sings Shirley Bassey's The Joker, that was a real highlight. Full of energy and zazz. Also the We're Gonna Build a Mountain number, which was like a swinging 70s number with Joker and Harley. That was fun too. Those scenes were more fun and interesting because they really do lean into the absurdity and the escapism that you get from watching a musical. But the times where it didn't work as well was when the characters are like singing in the real world. Like when Joker sings to Harley Quinn down the camera lens of a television interview that he's doing with Patty Myers, who's played in this film by Steve Coogan. You can tell Patty feels awkward in this moment, and you know what? It was a little awkward for the audience as well. Also, the scene where Gaga sings through the glass of one of her prison visits. I mean, it kind of does work because she is giving crazy cuckoo fangirl energy, but it doesn't work quite as well because we're not escaping to anywhere. When you're watching a musical, your brain kind of has this filter which separates the fantasy stuff from reality. But collectively, the songs in this film are sometimes at odds with what's going on in the scene, because sometimes it's fantasy and sometimes it's reality. Again, it's not consistent throughout, okay? There's no through line with all of the songs. Maybe that's what Todd Phillips was going for, like blurring the lines in order to give us Joker's point of view, not being able to tell what's real. But the audience can tell, okay? We know. There's nothing really ambiguous about each song. We know when we're watching a fantasy sequence and we know when it's happening in the real world. It was quite inconsistent, and because of that, some songs did work better than others. So it does hurt the film a little bit. But when it comes to what I think is good about this film, there's plenty to discuss. Todd Phillips brought back a lot of the same department heads from the first film, and everybody delivers. It must have been a fun challenge for production designer Mark Freeberg to up the ante with what he did from the first film. In Joker Folie, Deux, the set pieces are bigger, okay? They're more theatrical, and you can see some musical influences come through in the set design and the props, whether it's the umbrellas of Cherbourg, Singing in the Rain, the bandwagon, or even Moulin Rouge. They're actually more like nods than direct influences, I'd say. But yeah, the musical marriage sequence where you see Gaga running down the aisle, that was gorgeous. Same as the rooftop skyline dance scene, which is a throwback to the first film when Arthur was dancing in the bathroom, only this time now he has a dance partner. All of these sequences are beautifully lit by cinematographer Lawrence Sher, and when it's set in the real world, it's still got that grimy aesthetic, and when it's a fantasy sequence, it's more idyllic and clean and polished. Again, it highlights that theme of duality, you know, the line between fantasy and reality. Ariane Phillips has actually taken over the costume department from Mark Bridges, who did the first film, but she has crafted some wonderful designs, especially for Harley Quinn. I particularly loved the Joker and Harley, Sonny and Cher moment, and she did something clever with Arthur's prison attire at the beginning of the film. Because Arthur is so skinny and malnourished, his prison pants are so baggy on him, so when he puts them on and they're like 5 sizes too big for him, they kind of look like clown pants. The clothes are very much wearing him, and I just thought that was very clever. The sound was also really good in this film. I noticed it quite quickly when you hear Brendan Gleeson's prison officer character Jack whistling "Oh When the Saints Come Marching In" right at the beginning of the movie. You really do hear the acoustics of the very echoey prison corridors. And there's one moment later in the film, I won't say what happens, but when it does happen, I nearly leapt out of my seat. So yeah, I thought the sound in this was excellent. I still do like Todd Phillips' direction in this film, but I will say his direction in the first film was stronger. He's clearly not had that much experience directing musical numbers before, which is why some of them are better than others, but I can't help but think if a director who was more musical prone had directed some of these numbers, maybe some of the scenes where they're singing in reality wouldn't have felt so clunky or out of place. Maybe they could have found a smoother way to implement them. He does throw in some visual imagery where he can to reiterate the idea of the duality of Arthur and Joker, like the scene where he's shaving and he cuts his cheek and the blood drips a bit like a Joker smile. Same with the lipstick on the glass there during the scene between him and Harley Quinn. It's all reiterating the idea to the audience that Arthur and Joker are two halves of the same coin. When it comes to the performances in this film, they were brilliant. I'm once again in awe of Joaquin Phoenix's dedication to his craft, you know, physically. The fact that he went back to that like skeletal physique to play Arthur once again is maddening, but mad props to him. Again, he is so captivating in this role, and it's understandable why he would want to go back to the role that won him his first Oscar, okay? There was a lot for him to work with here. The sequel actually offered him new challenges with the part, okay? Because he's singing in this, okay? He's got a romantic relationship with Harley Quinn. He also gets to be funny, especially in the courtroom scenes, and I can't say too much about it without giving it away. It's a character where he really does get to play and try things and be unhinged and scary all at once. Lady Gaga is also excellent as Harley Quinn. Like, it is a role that is very much playing to her strengths because she is playing a kooky, theatrical weirdo. And of course, she also gets to sing. And I will say this, there were times where she was singing where I was kind of getting Gaga vibes. But to be fair, she is a world-renowned performer, okay? And she absolutely crushes it with these songs, okay? So it's only natural that when she starts belting them out, we would hear the pop star come out. But my favorite scenes of hers were actually the one-on-one scenes that she had with Joker, okay? The quieter moments where she gives us snippets of her backstory. Those were the moments that I was most impressed by Gaga, because I know she can sing already. The two of them did have really good chemistry as well, okay? You totally buy that these two damaged and discarded individuals would find a kinship within each other. They did a very good job of selling that connection. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Brendan Gleeson, who played the prison guard Jackie. He does a lot with a very small part. I thought he was great. All right, shall we talk about its Oscars chances? Do I think Folie is going to be a player at next year's Oscars? Yes, I do, but not as big of a player as the first Joker film was. Like, that film got 10 nominations, okay? I'm not expecting Folie to get 10. But I do think this film will have a shot in some categories. Best Actor is looking like a competitive year this year, and with Joaquin Phoenix having already won an Oscar for playing this role, there could be a collective mentality amongst voters where they're like, oh, we've already given Joaquin one for playing this role. Do we really need to give him another slot for playing the exact same part when we could acknowledge someone new? I will say, I do think this performance is worthy of getting an Oscar nomination. He's not doing the exact same thing that he did in the first film, okay? There are new challenges presented to him with this being a musical and all, and he absolutely rose to the occasion with those challenges. There are plenty of Oscar clip moments for Joaquin Phoenix in this film, but the problem with a performance in a sequel is that there's no surprise, okay? Like, the first time we saw Joaquin do this, it came as a really big surprise, okay? There was a lot of expectation for him to, like, do something different than Heath Ledger, and he did, crushed it. But now it's expected that he'd be good in this, and he was good, and he does a lot with this role, but it's just not as impressive the first time around because there's no surprise this time around. So yeah, I think he is a maybe right now, not a guarantee. He's probably around like the 5th or 6th spot for me. I read somewhere that Gaga was planning to go supporting actress for her performance as Harley Quinn, and now that I've seen the film, I totally understand why. It's not category fraud, okay? She's not a co-lead in this film with Joaquin Phoenix. I actually thought there were times in this film where she was a little bit sidelined. I actually would have liked to have seen more Gaga in this film, but I do think she stands a good chance of getting the nomination. But it is still a juicy part for her, and she is memorable in this. I'm sure Gaga will be campaigning her ass off to get the nomination, and I will say that her performance here isn't as big or as loud as what she was doing in House of Gucci. Harley Quinn is a character where it's very easy to go big, and I actually admire the restraint that Gaga brings to the performance here. This is also a triple threat performance from her because she's acting, singing, and dancing in this film, and she does a great job of all three. I think she is going to get into Best Supporting Actress for this role. Where else do I think it could get nominated? Costumes, hair and makeup, production design, and sound are all on the cards. Screenplay, not so much this time around. I feel like the first screenplay had so much more to say about society at large. I don't think Todd Phillips is getting the nomination for directing again. Honestly, him showing up in 2020 in that category was a bit of a surprise, like over Greta Gerwig for Little Women. Plus, he's not a musical guy, and it shows, okay? The first film really played more to his strengths. Best Picture, I could see happening, okay? It's not a lock, but if the film does bag like a Best Actor and a Best Supporting Actress nomination and a bunch of like techs or crafts, then Best Picture could come along with it. Plus, with Lady Gaga in this film, there is a lot of interest around this film, okay? People are gonna go watch it, okay? They're gonna wanna check it out. It's gonna make money. And usually there are 1 or 2 moneymaker films in the lineup for Best Picture. So yeah, I probably will have it in my 10 for Best Picture, but on the lower end, it could be like position 8, 9, or 10. I don't think it's a guarantee. But yeah, I can see Joker getting a modest nominations bundle at the Oscars, like somewhere between like 2 and maybe 6 nominations. That's how I'm currently feeling with Oscar nominations for Folie. How about you guys? How many Oscar noms do you think the film's gonna get? In what categories? Whatever you have to say, let me know in the comment section down below. All right then, shall we ask them 3 questions? Firstly, would I watch this again? Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed the film. I would happily revisit it, and I would even add it to my collection. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? I know the first film was quite polarizing, so I can't say this film is going to be for everybody. But if you are a fan of the first Joker film, you will probably enjoy this. If you're a fan of Joaquin Phoenix or Lady Gaga, they're both been fantastic, and it is worth checking out for their performances. So while I do recommend it, if you're one of those people that didn't like the first film, then you might want to skip it. And third question, what score to give it out of 10? Again, I don't think this is as good as the first Joker film, but I do admire and appreciate the risks that Todd Phillips took by making the sequel a courtroom drama slash jukebox musical slash love story. He took some risks with this film. I don't think they all paid off, but I still had a good time watching this film. So I'm gonna give Folie a score of 8 out of 10. But as always, guys, it is just one bloke's opinion. I would love to hear from you. Are you excited for Folie? Have you seen it? If you have, what do you make of this film? How does it compare to the first film for you? If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And if you want to stay up to date with all my Venice Film Festival coverage, be sure to follow me on the socials. You can find links to all of these in that video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Harefield, and I'll see you next time.